Welcome back to Beat the Recession Marketing. I'm James Carley, and you're watching Pillar Number 1, your website. In this module, you're going to learn strategies that will help optimize your website for maximum conversions. And the reason why I said conversions is that we want to focus on making sure that we make the most out of every visitor that your marketing brings in. And by maximizing your site for conversions is going to allow you to accomplish two things. The first thing is that you're going to be able to save money on advertising. And the second thing is that you're going to be able to create a better user experience. And when you consider that both of these things are extremely important because your website nowadays acts as the face of your business. It's like a digital extension of your company's voice. And if you think about how consumers go about getting information, oftentimes our website is that first contact person that when consumers see when they're trying to learn more about our business, right? So it's very important that we make that first point of contact, that first experience, a very professional and friendly one. Now, if you think back to the last module when we learned about the consumer buying process, what was the first thing a customer does after they realize they have a want or a need? Do you remember? That's right. 97% of them begin their search online. Now, that doesn't matter how they come in contact with your marketing materials. They could have seen it on Google, social media, in a magazine, yellow pages, radio ads, anything offline, and this doesn't matter for any kind of media that there is. They all begin doing their search online. And so because they start doing their search online, you must make sure that when they come in contact with your website, that your website presents you as an industry leader. Consumers are looking for that real deal. They're looking for those real solutions that are provided by a real company, because every consumer at some point in time has had a bad experience with a company saying that they could do one thing, but they delivered another. So they want to make sure that they're doing business with an industry leader. And because of this principle, I want to ask you a question regarding your website. If a consumer was to visit your website right now, does your website provide answers to their question? And if it does, are you presenting real solutions to their problems? And if you're not, I want you to know that is the difference between you and your competition, because they are providing real solutions to their problems. Now, I want to dive into a few ways that you can optimize your website to capture and engage leads. You need to make the conversion process for your consumers as easy and rewarding as possible, because our main objective through this whole thing is to keep our consumer satisfied. So the first thing that we're going to do on your website is we're going to take a look at your website design. And when it comes to your website design, there's three things that have to be done. The first thing is your website needs to be up to date. It needs to be full of recent and relevant content that appeals to your general audience. You need to be answering questions. You need to be posting things in interactive formats such as videos and articles. You need to constantly be updating it with relevant information about your market. The second thing your website needs to be is modern. If I was to whip out my smartphone or my tablet and I was to visit your website, how would your website display on either device? Would I have to pinch and zoom, or would it be perfectly formatted based on that device? These are things that you really need to take into consideration, considering that consumers nowadays are viewing your materials and your marketing messages on multiple devices at once. Now, the third thing your website must be is visually appealing. Now, imagine if I was to visit your website right now, would I feel like it's up to date or that it belonged in the Stone Age? Now, your website must be up to date and modern for more reasons than one, and let me give you a good example. Imagine if when you first met a business professional and you asked them, what do you do for a living? And they said that they were a top lawyer in San Diego, for example. But when I was talking to that individual, he or she really had an unprofessional appearance. What would be the chances that I would trust them or to represent me or to earn my business? It would be very slim, right? But why is that? Because first impressions and appearances, they do count. It helps visually to position yourself as an expert, not only in person, but online as well. because oftentimes people associate value with appearance. There's like the old saying goes, right? Never judge a book by its cover. But unfortunately, in the real world, most people do. So make sure that your website is up to date. The next element we want to look at regarding your website is being relevant. What this means is making sure the information about your ideal customers' wants and needs are located on your website. You want to include any product or service questions that they may have, any market updates, any insider tips, or basic product details that they will be looking for. In other words, you just want your website to be in tune with what's going on in your market. These are the steps that are necessary to becoming that authority in your market. You want to become a true one-stop shop for all your customers' needs, because you want them to know that when it comes to your business, that you provide the best quality and the best content in your market regarding your subject. And that is really the overall goal here. Here are some ways you could use to help your website be found relevant. You can start posting relevant articles and videos, blog posts, infographics, press releases, just pretty much any relevant information that your targeted audience would deem useful. And what you want to start to do is when you find something of value, make it your first priority to share it with your audience. Because when you start to do this, what you'll start to see is a massive increase between your consumer and your content. And they're going to start to be encouraged because of the value you're presenting them. They're going to start to be encouraged to sharing that socially. So they're going to be posting it to their friends on Facebook and on Twitter. And when this is all happening live, in return, it's going to start to increase your credibility within the search engines and establish that social proof that you're going to need to shorten your overall sales process. The second to last element in this module is lead capture. Now, lead capturing, if you've been in marketing for any length of time, we're pretty familiar with, but most people never actually do it, or they have a hard time implementing. And there's a famous saying that goes with lead capturing that says, the money is in the list, or the money is in the customer database. This is a cardinal rule for every business. Honestly, if there was one thing that I could recommend to every business that I believe that would drastically build their revenue, would be building a list. There are 1 million to billion-dollar companies whose entire business model is based on revenue from their list. For instance, you have companies like Groupon and other daily deal sites that generate leads for local businesses strictly from their own list. And then they turn around and charge local businesses for access to their list. The amazing thing is, statistics show that daily deal sites are expected to double their revenue 100% each year. That's 100% increase in business each year, all coming from a customer database or having your own list. This speaks volumes of what building a list can do even during a recession. So the benefits of having your own customer database is literally like having your own ability to print money on demand. The best way to explain this concept is my analogy of a squirrel. A squirrel all year long is working to store away his acorns. In our case, it would be customers. And anytime the squirrel needs an acorn, he simply has a supply. And if there's ever a drought, or in our case, slow business, guess what? He has a resource that he can tap into. I cannot express how extremely powerful this is. Imagine having a direct line of communication with your customer. You're forming healthy communication channels that are going to drive interested leads to any bargain or any deal that you may have. Now, the way that we capture leads that visit your website is making sure that your website has two things. The first thing you need to make sure it has is some type of opt-in form, which is a pop-up or some type of content embed or widget on the side of your page. The second thing you want to do to be able to capture those leads is have some type of designated opt-in page, which is called a squeeze page or some type of landing page. Now, you can have an opt-in page on more than your website, but we'll talk more about that in later modules. You want to provide your customers a way that they can hear about all the cool things that are going on in your business because that's what's going to drive the opt-ins. Now, please understand that this is something that consumers really want and is a huge asset to you. Remember, your consumers are looking for you and you are simply providing what they need. So you need to make sure that your website has some type of lead capture system in place. The last element that we're going to talk about regarding your website is shareability. We all know the viral power of social networks nowadays, but by installing social icons on your website allows consumers to share those quality articles and videos that are on your website very easily with their family and friends. This is simple but highly effective. It's a vital piece for expanding your visibility as well as your credibility in the marketplace. So you just want to make sure that every page and every blog post has a way to share virally that content with their family and friends. This is very easy to do depending on the type of website that you have. If you have an HTML website or a WordPress website, normally it just requires installing a social plugin or just embedding some type of code into your desired page. A quick tip to remember when you're embedding these social icons on your page is you want to make sure that you have some type of call to action on your desired web page, because you want to encourage your consumers to share your content with their friends and their family on their social profiles. So let's do a quick recap of what we learned in pillar number 1. The first thing we learned about was design. We learned on how having a modern, up-to-date website really helps present your company professionally, and it makes that first impression really count. The second thing we learned about is being relevant, and how being found relevant with quality content positions us to become an authority in your market, showing that you really understand the customer's needs. The third thing we learned about is lead capturing, and how lead capturing and building a customer database is the single biggest asset that any business could have. The fourth thing we learned about is shareability. We learned how allowing your visitors to share your website's content will increase your site's popularity through all the social proof that it is receiving. So your homework from this module is to examine your website and take a look at all 4 of these elements. Make sure your website has them in place. If not, it's time for some adjustments. Also, you want to take a look at your competition to see if there's any possible elements or anything that they're doing maybe stronger than you that maybe you can implement and do better. This is going to help you stay competitive in the long run. Too many businesses have spent a ton of money on their website just to let them sit around and do nothing for them. It's time to change that by structuring your website based on these 4 elements. It will turn your website into a powerful, useful asset for your business that truly works for you. Now let's move forward to pillar number 2, mobile.